Only way to take down America is internal. That's it. America is in a really, really good strategic area. They understand that. So, of course, they're going to make sure that the people are extremely disunited, which is why we're having this problem that we're having now. And so, with that being said, while they are slowly and gradually collapsing the United States of America, they are simultaneously trying to create a next superpower over here. They're trying to manufacture the next superpower over here. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I went ahead and saw this little clip right here, which is 2 minutes long, and I want to dive into it and try to break it down and, listen to their perspective and also listen to mine and see, what they're trying to talk about. And I will try to elaborate more so that way I can help you guys understand.
Do you see the occupation of Palestine as a result of capitalist imperialism?
Yeah, I think we have to understand, why does the U.S. supports this genocidal regime? It's strange because it's deeply unpopular in the U.S. People want to see the genocide stop. They recognize that Israel is being extremely destructive, committing war crimes, violating international law, etc. Why would the U.S. continue to support to the point of debasing their own apparent values?
Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys why the U.S. support what's going on in the Middle East, or in what the Israelis are doing. This is the reason why. For hundreds of years, the European countries have a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have benefited from the resources that come from this massive continent right here. That time is coming to an end. We are now seeing a massive shift in history. The Africans are now taking back their resources. If you haven't learned, go ahead and, pay attention to this. Is not the only country, by the way, but Burkina Faso will be a really good place to start because he's the most talked about currently. But Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, all these areas, they are taking back control of their resources. They're not allowing the French and all these other European countries to now, take their resources at a cheap price and then sell it to other European land for such a massive amount of money. Like I said, that time is coming to an end. Once they succeed, just understand that, Algeria and all these other countries and stuff like that, they're going to follow through. Africa has been in a position of being poor for so long that once the people start to see the success of Burkina Faso in these places, they're going to want to follow through. And any African leader who comes in position and say, hey, we need to, let the French back into our country, people are going to stand up and say, hell no, you're not doing that. Hell no. You need to leave because this is our resources. These people are it's going to be a trend. And we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see it. You don't hear much about it because right now everybody's talking about Palestine and Israel and stuff like that. But you guys need to understand that Africa is also taking back their resources. It's only a matter of time now before the European land are no longer going to be able to benefit from Africa's resources without having to pay a fair share amount to get the resources to continue, pumping their economy. And so the reason America is still supporting Israel is for one reason and one reason alone. This is in a very, very good geographical strategic area. Okay? The Red Sea is very crucial for all the big major ships that come from China and all these other countries that needs to make their way into Europe. And so if they get control of this area right here, although the whole plan of Greater Israel is the Nile River all the way like half of Saudi Arabia and close to, it's kind of close, I'll say about half of Iraq and Syria, right? So yeah, once they get the control of this whole entire region, right? Any ship that makes their way up here, they're gonna make money off of it. I mean, we're talking money making machine right there. And so without money coming from here, resources coming from here anymore, they need to find a way to make money. And so they're gonna take control of the oil in this region. And on top of that, the ship that goes into this region, into Europe, they're gonna take control of it. So pretty much Europe is gonna become a slave to these people. It's mostly Europe that's going to be a slave to these people because they're going to put a certain price for any ship that makes its way here. And if they refuse to pay that, guess what? Those ships are not going to make their way through. And now they will have to pay extra for ship to go all the way down to South Africa and around Africa you get the whole idea. That's the reason why America is still supporting it, because they understand the power is shifting. It's near the end.
So publicly. And the reason is because the US sees Israel as crucial to the interests of the capitalist class. Now, let me explain exactly what's going on here. The US started supporting Israel in the 1960s. Now, why was that? It was because across the Middle East and North Africa, there was a movement called Pan-Arabism and also Pan-Africanism, which were inspiring the masses in these regions. And the US knew, if you're looking at the Middle East and North Africa, which they consider to be the linchpin of the world, an area like this going independent and having control over their own resources is deeply threatening to the possibility of
existential threat.
Existential threat, totally. And so they knew they needed some way of destabilizing these movements, and they used Israel to do that. So Israel became kind of the attack dog of the United States. They armed it to the teeth. They directly used Israel to destabilize the more radical movements in the Middle East, the socialist movements in the Middle East. They used Israel to bomb countries, assassinate leaders, destroy progressive political associations, et cetera, et cetera.
And one thing that you guys also need to understand is that they are trying to create a superpower in this region right here. For thousands and thousands of years, every single superpower that has risen up has also fallen. Currently, America is the superpower of the world. We understand that. Now, if you're living here in the West, if you're living in America, you will have to be asleep. You'll have to be living in a cave somewhere to not see that everything around us is falling apart. Nobody's united anymore. Black hate white. White hate black, Mexican, you name it. Everybody is just so disunited. And this is all done on purpose. All of it is done on purpose. These people are not stupid. They have stats. They see a graph. They hear people's opinion all the time. They put movies on. And in these movies, it's designed for us to think a certain way. So internally, the only way to take down America is internal. That's it. America is in a really, really good strategic area. They understand that. So of course, they're going to make sure that the people are extremely disunited, which is why we're having this problem that we're having now. And so with that being said, while they are slowly and gradually collapsing the United States of America, they are simultaneously trying to create a next superpower over here. They're trying to manufacture the next superpower over here because it's only a matter of time before America falls. Again, thousands and thousands of years, we've seen superpower has risen up and died. That's the truth of the matter. And so, are they going to succeed? That's the question that is on everybody's mind. In my personal opinion, they're not going to succeed. They've done too much damage. The only reason all the superpower were able to rise and fall is simply because, for one, the corruption went under the radar and nobody saw what they're doing. And so they were able to get away with a lot of stuff. Into this day and age, we have technology. We have telephones. We can see. We have independent media, so they can't lie to us anymore. And so as time goes on, you'll start to see something. You'll start to see a major shift in power. And one thing that I do want to tell you, because not only do the Muslims believe this, but the Christians also have this belief, right? The river of Euphrates. River of Euphrates is, well, if that water dries up, just understand that it's going to be a major war. Why? Because that river has gold. Nobody knows where the gold is yet because the water is still full. But once that water dries up, it's going to be a huge battle for that gold in that region. As Muslims, we were told not to get near it. Christians, I don't know exactly what they believe, but that's also one of the end signs that we know of that is currently about to take place. And so, when that happens, a lot of countries are going to try to gain take that resources, and just know that nuclear bombs are going to be used.
Do you see the occupation of...
My apologies.
Existential threat, totally. And so they knew they needed some way of destabilizing these movements, and they used Israel to do that. So Israel became kind of the attack dog of the United States. They armed it to the teeth. They directly used Israel to destabilize the more radical movements in the Middle East, the socialist movements in the Middle East. They used Israel to bomb countries, assassinate leaders, destroy progressive political associations, et cetera, et cetera.
All in the name of, we need to defend ourselves. This is our birthright. This land was promised to us 3,000 years ago. Blah, 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 blah.
It's effectively a U.S. military base in the region.
It's not just about having a military presence in an oil-rich area, but it's actually fundamental to the operation of this imperialist capitalist economic model that's global and runs much deeper than just the oil trade.
Absolutely. It's not just about any particular resource. It's about we have to dismantle the very possibility of these popular socialist movements ever winning the hearts and minds of people, which they automatically do, right? And so they have to be violently crushed. And so it's not necessarily like the US desperately needs Gaza to be obliterated, but rather they cannot stomach the possibility of a liberated Palestine because this might lead to liberation movements elsewhere in the region, and that becomes very destabilizing for the US. Freedom is not an acceptable idea.
You know, I'm glad they really said what they said. But one thing that I do want to also say is that even the Jews are also not safe from these people, because if you study a little bit of World War II, one thing that I understood was that the people who funded Hitler were also the people who also funded the other side. Yeah. And I can guarantee you this, that it's the same people who are also funding the situation that's going on in Palestine currently. These people don't have a side. They pretend they do. They don't. You don't even know who they are. I won't even be surprised. I don't even think Donald Trump know who they are, to be honest with you. But this is the life that we are living in. Anyways, if you made it this far, I hope you learned a little bit of the strategic plan that's going on in the Middle East, and I will catch you guys up later.